It seems that as we dig deeper and deeper into the November 2022 quadruple homicide that took the lives of college students Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, the picture of what happened on that fateful morning in Moscow, Idaho, becomes less and less clear. One question that seems to linger is on the topic of whether there is a possible drug connection here. From the violent and seemingly targeted nature of the attacks to the criminal records of some of the victims' parental figures and even the personal history of our suspect in custody, the topic of drugs definitely shouldn't be taken off the table when it comes to conversations about this case. This is a video I've been waiting to make for a while now, and I've compiled a good bit of research and possible connections to share with you all. The topic of substance abuse and community impact, specifically as it pertains to violent crime, is one I'm really interested in, and I hope you also find this information interesting and relevant to the case. So, to begin our analysis, let's familiarize ourselves with some of the regional and local concerns regarding drug use and trafficking. I'll then touch on victimology and share what I was able to uncover about direct connections to the victims. So sit back, relax, take notes if you're the type, and let's dive into this treacherous topic.
Every single day, somebody's tripping to Utah and bringing back heroin.
The #1 drug problem plaguing state police is trafficked into Idaho communities 7 days a week.
It's becoming more and more frequent.
5 years ago, we were seeing almost none, and right now, it's the biggest problem that we have in southeast Idaho.
We can see anywhere from users to have the tiniest amounts to the traffickers that have ounces, and up to pounds of it.
It started a couple years ago with small quantity stuff. Started with points, which is 1/10 of a gram. Now it's moved on past that into grams and ounces, and we've seen a couple different cases where people are bringing in a half pound to a pound of heroin at a time.
But where are the drugs coming from? Turns out most are transported into the state from Utah.
The vast majority of the cases that we work is being sourced out of Salt Lake City.
ISP officials say somebody can just drive down to Salt Lake City, buy about a gram of heroin for $50, then drive that same amount back into Idaho and sell it for at least 3 times that amount.
2 hours each way, yeah, so a 4-hour round trip, and they could double their money.
When it comes to heroin trafficking, that's anything more than 2 grams. The number of state lab cases more than doubled between 2015 and 2016. Canyon County seeing the highest rate increase, but falls 4th in the state behind Ada, Bannock, and Kootenai counties.
Zooming into the community where the homicides occurred, the statewide narcotics issue seems to be a local concern as well. But the primary concern in Moscow these days, even more so than heroin or meth, is fentanyl, a synthetic opioid typically used to treat patients with chronic severe pain or severe pain following surgery. According to Moscow PD, there is at least 1 fentanyl overdose per week in Latah County on average, which has a population of about 40,000 for reference. Moscow PD investigated more than 40 fentanyl cases in 2021, significantly more than heroin or meth, and the number of fentanyl cases has increased in recent years. In an effort to help address this concern, Moscow PD added a drug canine to their force in June 2022.
Fentanyl and other illicit drugs are prevalent in our communities, but Moscow police have a new weapon in the fight against drugs, and that's their first ever drug canine. This is Ragnar. He's an 18-month-old lab from the Netherlands, and he may look harmless, but his job is serious business, sniffing out illegal drugs hidden from officers during traffic stops or property searches. His handler tells us the need for a drug canine in Moscow is very real.
Now, let's take a trip about 2 hours north of Moscow to Kootenai County, where Maddie, Kaylee, and Xana all grew up. Maddie and Kaylee both attended school and grew up in Coeur d'Alene. Xana was actually born in Coeur d'Alene and lived about 15 minutes east in Post Falls, Idaho. Kootenai County has a population about 4.5 times the size of Latah County, with about 180,000 residents.
About 2 weeks ago, 5 people died in Kootenai County from suspected fentanyl-related overdoses. Since my last report, an additional 2 more people have overdosed.
The Kootenai County Sheriff's Office says fentanyl is continuously popping up all over the county. For Brandel, the fight has quickly become exhausting. He says he's tired of the community avoiding this conversation. He's tired of people pretending nothing's wrong. And he's tired of the common excuse that it's just a few bad people selling and doing drugs.
You have kids in school, you have soccer moms, you have medical professionals, you have people that they They get hooked on it because they had a legitimate medical need for it. They were prescribed it, and then for whatever reason, it kind of spiraled out of control.
He says there's no easy solution. The opioid epidemic can't be solved by law enforcement alone. The solution needs to come from the broader community, because right now, the problem isn't getting better, but worse.
So it's pretty much common knowledge at this point in the case that Xana's mother, Kara Northington, also known as Kara Kernodle, has an extensive criminal record, including quite a few drug charges, most of which are in Kootenai County. And if you've been following really closely, you may have seen reports Maddie's stepmother, Corey Hatrock, who also has drug charges in Kootenai County, and notably, she was also represented by Ann Taylor, who was Kara Kernodle's defense attorney, of course, until she became Kohberger's defense attorney. So both of these women with direct connections to our victims, Xana and Maddie, were facing serious, and I mean serious, drug charges at the time of the murders in Kootenai County, both being represented by the same public defender who now defends Brian Kohberger. So keep that in mind, but we're gonna dive a little bit into these charges because there's some really interesting stuff here. And the media hasn't really touched on all of this, but it raises some serious questions. So starting off with Xana's mother, Kara. She was notably arrested on November 19th, 2022, so just a week after the homicides, on 2 counts of possession charges. So under Idaho law, a possession charge under IC 37-2732C subsection 1, any person who violates this subsection and has in his possession a controlled substance classified in Schedule 1, which is a narcotic drug, or a controlled substance in Schedule 2, is guilty of a felony and upon conviction may be imprisoned for not more than 7 years or fined not more than $15,000 or both. While this is a serious charge, a possession charge is much less severe than a possession with intent to deliver charge, which Kara caught in Nez Perce County in August of 2021, also accompanied by another possession charge. And this specific charge reads as follows: it is unlawful for any person to manufacture or deliver or possess with intent to manufacture or deliver a controlled substance. A person who violates this subsection with respect to a controlled substance classified in Schedule 1, which is a narcotic drug, or a controlled substance classified in Schedule 2, is guilty of a felony and upon conviction may be imprisoned for a term of years not to exceed life imprisonment or fined not more than $25,000 or both. Now, this August 2021 case, which was the possession with intent followed by another possession charge, is actually still pending, and check this timing out because it just gets weirder from here. It looks like Kara changed her plea to guilty for this charge on September 13th, 2022. She was supposed to be sentenced on November 17th, 2022, just 4 days after the murders, but she failed to show up for the hearing and it doesn't look like she's been sentenced to this day. But needless to say, Kara is facing some serious jail time. From what I can tell, Idaho is very strict in terms of minimum sentences for drug crimes. And there may be some concerns regarding habitual offender. Under Idaho law, if a defendant is convicted of any felony for a third time, either in Idaho or outside of the state of Idaho, the sentence on the third conviction is a period of incarceration of 5 years to life. So there's that extra caveat to worry about. She's facing some serious time with these 3 possession charges and the more severe possession with intent charge. So obviously I wish her the best and I hope that she can get the help that she needs to turn her life around. Moving on to Maddie's stepmom, Corey Hatrock. She married Maddie's dad, Ben Mogan, in August 2020. And as I mentioned, some folks online have made connections to her recent drug charges out of Kootenai County, noting the odd timing as it pertains to the homicides. So stick with me here. Corey was sentenced on November 7th, 2022. This is the Tuesday before the murders, and it looks like she took a plea deal. So back in June of 2022, she was charged with 3 counts: a possession charge, possession with intent to deliver, and a drug paraphernalia charge. She remained out on a $15,000 surety bond until her sentencing. At her November 7th hearing, it looks like she pled guilty to the less severe charge of possession, and the other two charges, including the more severe that intent to deliver charge, were both dropped. As a result, Hat Rock received a 3 to 4 year sentence in state prison. It's also worth noting that Hat Rock was only 1 month into a 2-year unsupervised probation when she caught these charges, stemming from a March 2022 drug paraphernalia charge that she pled guilty to in exchange for no jail time. So that may be a reason they handed her a stiff sentence despite her guilty plea. So why does any of this matter? And it might not, but here are some facts that you're gonna have to rationalize. Time of the quadruple slaying, both Kernodle and Hat Rock were in the process of or just accepted a plea deal with Kootenai County prosecutors pertaining to drug possession with intent to deliver. 2. In Hat Rock's case, she was able to get both the drug paraphernalia charge and the much more severe charge of possession with intent to deliver, both dropped despite having been on probation at the time. 3. It is a known fact that prosecutors will oftentimes offer deals to a defendant that could help them in another case. For instance, they can offer a deal to someone who, though guilty, is prepared to give testimony about a co-defendant or help resolve some other unsolved case. 4. Per documents filed by Kohberger's defense, we know there is a possibility of an informant in this case. 5. Kara told Ashley Banfield at News Nation that she believed that Xana's dad, Jeff Kernodle, changed the locks on Xana's bedroom just 1 week before the homicides. Are these all coincidences? Is it possible that during these plea bargaining negotiations, information was disclosed that made the wrong person or people angry? We still don't know anything about our nexus from the suspect to the victims, or any of the complicated factors that may surround that particular connection, if indeed it does exist. I just have a nagging feeling that these proceedings are important, and I want to know what you think. Does any of this shine light on a possible nexus? Is it possible this crime was committed in retaliation, or to send a message, or even silence somebody with information? Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you for part 2 of this analysis, where we will explore some other aspects of a possible drug connection in this case.